This is the Soul-Filled Sisterhood podcast, and I'm your host, Nicole Burgess, licensed marriage and family therapist and an empowerment mentor for women. The information shared in this podcast is not a substitute, nor is it to convey professional, psychological, financial, or medical advice. If you could use such services, please seek them out from someone you trust. Now here is today's episode. Episode 103. If you are liking what you're hearing on the Soul-Filled Sisterhood podcast, I encourage you to go out to iTunes and leave me either a star rating and/or go in there and put in an actual review itself. It helps with the algorithms, which then helps promote the podcast for other women to find it when they're searching in iTunes. Thank you again for your support. Now here is today's episode. Well, welcome, sisters. Oh my goodness, here it is. Conversation number 6 with my friend Tamara Powell. So back in episode 81, we discussed why we build our business and breaking through our own limiting beliefs. Then in episode 85, we talked about labels and constructs and encouraged you to begin to explore what may be holding you back in your business or your life. Then in episode 89, we discussed the magic of liminal space or seasons of change. Then episode 93, we discussed navigating fears in business and life. Then just recently, on episode 98, we talked about the opportunities our blind spots and shadow work bring to our lives. And today we're going to dive into personal development, which is all about those things we talked about. So if you're tuning in for the first time, let me introduce Tamara Powell. She is a licensed therapist, university psychology instructor, and an empowerment coach who believes life should be lived as a journey that is, quote, anything but ordinary. Her work is specialized to help individuals break free from toxic cycles of distress, dysfunction, and dissatisfaction with life that are created when trying to live according to someone else's rules. And I know some of you can totally identify with that. Only by living with what she calls radical autonomy can one obtain soul-nourishing relationships and a sense of true life purpose and inner peace. Well, welcome back, Tamara.
Thank you. Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Well, today we're going to talk about all things personal development. And I know some of our previous conversations, it really is about personal development because it's all about us getting to know what our, blind spots are or shadow work is. And so doing that inner work. And I'm curious from your perspective, why do you think personal development is important?
I think both from the internal and the external, it's a lifelong journey, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I am one of those weirdos that loves that phrase, personal development. And then I know there's a ton of people listening that are probably like, groan. Yeah, all right, here's a coach talking about why we should love what she does. Meh. But for those weirdos that enjoy taking a look at why the heck do I do that? And how do I optimize myself and my life and get that awesome business, relationship, life at home that I want, it requires a little developing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just love it. I've always loved it. I remember being 6 and loving it. Reading the books off my parents' bookshelves. I was that weirdo. They were usually about me, by the way. The Strong-Willed Child, birth order book. So maybe I was curious as to why they were curious about what I was doing. I don't know. Regardless, it's fun.
Well, it is, and it's funny just even the way you responded to that. 'Cause I'm like, yeah, I kind of geek out on that stuff. I mean, I think I've been a learner since young age too, and I know I did that Strength Finder assessment or quiz a while back, and like my top 2 strengths are about learning and growth. I'm like, yeah. All right,
there it is.
That's why it's so fun to do what we do.
Yes.
Yeah, and I also think as we've talked in previous episodes, we also. Every time we're leveling up or we're getting to a different level in our lives, reaching more of our true potential and all of that inside, you can't keep doing it on your own. You have to look at other resources, whether it's through books, podcasts, having a mentor, a coach, going through courses, because you're going to bump up against your own limitations or your own lack of skill in a specific area. And so you need to be able to hone that, change that, or figure out like, okay, this is something I really don't like to do and I need to delegate that then.
Amen.
Yeah. Curious then, my other question is, how often then do you invest in your personal development? We know what we have to do as therapists. I mean, we're required to do CEUs every single year. It's like it's built in that we have to continue to develop on that. But how often for you, kind of outside of that, do you typically invest in you?
Daily.
Love the answer.
I mean, it's true though, as trite as it might sound, daily in some form or fashion. I'm constantly reading 4 or 5 books. Constant.
Sorry, I'm laughing because of like,
yeah,
ooh, yeah, I got that going on now too. Yeah.
constant, because CEUs aren't enough. I actually, ironically, was just talking to my fiance about this in the car. I said, I think the best therapists are, or coaches, or whatever the thing is, widget maker, are the ones that not only take the requirements, but find something that they're curious about and keep going. I know it makes me a better clinician. And then I also stay in therapy. I see one every 2 weeks. He's the best $150 I spend. Because I think it's important to process with someone that's not related to your people.
Yeah.
And then go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, just to stay on that topic right there, I know you and I have talked about this off the podcast too, but it is important to have somebody outside family and friends that you can really tap into regarding that. I'm in a mastermind at this point for the year, and that's been so helpful because they get to see stuff. I'm like, okay, I'm bumping up against this wall and I don't understand what it is. And they're like, how about this? I'm like, oh, thank you.
Exactly. We're too close to the forest. This tree is smacking me in the face and all I see is bark. Exactly. I don't know what it is. And someone's like, it's an oak tree. And I'm like, oh, of course it is. Yes. And then, I mean, on the grander scale, I usually invest like you in something larger at least once a year as well. Something that I am working on, whether it's on the business, the system side, or of course, my favorite's being processy as a personal coach, but sometimes you need both.
Well, yeah, because I think again, we're more than one dimension, right? There's so many different aspects of life, and so for me, it's if I don't do it every year, I will do some sort of spiritual stuff on whether on my own or going to a spiritual retreat. I also do a lot of stuff in fiber arts, which to me, it just builds me up in a whole different way. And so that's kind of my self-care piece of it. And like what we're saying too, it's also that professional help, that support as well if we're kind of getting stuck on something or wanting to go deeper in a certain area. And again, unlearn something and relearn it in a whole different way. All those aspects. And yeah, for our clinical hat, it's like, these, handful of CEUs that we need to take keeps you honing in on the clinical skills themselves. But when you're running a business or you're in a business, you've got to do more than what just the minimum is, in my mind. And then all of that helps you in your own relationships. All of it has an opportunity to even improve how you communicate, how you listen, how you show up, how you stay present, problem solve, all that stuff.
Very much so.
Yeah. All right. So another question I have, kind of what I was just hinting on, what are some of those potential like transformations when you're going through personal development? Let's stick with the business. Let's start with that.
Okay.
What are some of those potential things you can start to see in your business as you're learning something new or leveling up?
Release of imposter syndrome.
Ooh, beautiful.
Feeling like, oh, this is my zone of genius. Oh, I see how me stepping up to the plate is now serving other people. So there's no need for imposter syndrome because I'm doing exactly what makes sense for me and thus my people. So that's my favorite thing that went away.
Yeah, that's big.
Not that it's not ever there, but it's not anywhere close to what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, that gives me, like, I'm pausing as you're saying that because I'm just like, that's like, it no longer becomes the roadblock. Yes, it still pops up as we keep going, leveling up in that sense, but it's like you catch it quicker and then you can shift quicker as you're catching like, oh, hi, fear. How are ya?
Exactly. Oh, I see it. I notice the clench and then I move away from it pretty quickly within usually the same hour, if not faster.
Yeah.
It's not paralyzing. And I mean, that shit used to wake me up in panic.
Yeah.
It used to be in my nightmares. So, I mean, that was a big deal.
Well, yeah, that is a big deal. And to be able now to reflect back, it's like, wow, look how much I've grown and how that doesn't hold me back anymore. So I can truly show up even more so to the people who are looking for what I do.
Yeah, I mean, I literally was nearly phobic about my conscious incompetence.
Wow.
Like,
yeah.
I was aware of how much I had previously been unaware of, and I didn't know what to do about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
it's a normative stage, but then coming to, instead of pushing that away, ignoring it, or trying to hustle right through that, pausing and doing the personal development work and realizing that here's your lane, boo. It's not nearly as large or freakish as you thought it was. Stop trying to swallow the whole ocean in one gulp.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just imagine that lane of just like, wow, it's really wide and it's so curvy. It's like, no, back it up. You know,
Yeah,
it still
right
have
here.
its curves, but it's not that big. Yeah.
Right. That was wonderful. So
Yeah.
imposter syndrome, the big one. The second one, I would say, is something along the lines of scarcity mindset, like coming to understand why I had an issue every time I went to make more money to level up, why I instantly wanted to sabotage and make it harder on myself.
Yeah.
Recognizing where that came from with family and culture and religion, and realizing I didn't have to do that was another huge weight off.
Yeah. That is huge. I still have moments of scarcity that will come up, whether it is around money or it is around something specific in the business. And then it's like, oh, here you are again. Okay. Right. It's like, what is it you're really trying to tell me? And then I'm going to say thank you for the information. And I don't have any facts that actually back that thing up. So
that's huge.
Yeah.
How about for you?
I think, the way you even named it, imposter syndrome might have been one of them. But I think more than anything for me, it's trusting myself and taking those calculated risks. Because I'm very much about calculation in the sense of like, I don't take these huge leaps into things without having some sort of little safety net underneath it. So between, moving across the country and starting up a business on one end of the coast to where I'm at now, it's like all of those were calculated risk, but I also created a plan. But it's really trusting in my ability to be able to make it work. And that was through having, a therapist, having other mentors that helped me really build my own confidence level up, versus listening to some family members and friends who are like, oh, what are you doing? That's it's going to be really hard. You can't do that. You're not going to be able to, financially afford that. And
right.
I had every time. And I think I would also be truly bored if I didn't do personal development. It's almost as if the way my mind is, yes, I still work on the scarcity piece too as well, what you were just talking about. But to not do personal development, whether it's on my business or my life, I would be bored. And it's not that I'm not content on a lot of levels of where I am in my life, but I know there's so much more to learn, and I actually gain energy from the learning. And if I wasn't learning, that would deplete me and I think would depress me if I'm not in that stage.
That speaks to my soul. I agree.
Yeah. So, and to me, I guess what do I want to say? I become more shocked if people are like, yeah, no, I'm good. I don't want to develop anymore. I'm like, what? Wait, I'm sorry. It's not computing. What?
Well, that makes me curious, right? As a clinician, it makes me wonder, how do we sometimes keep it from becoming hurtful or pathological? Because, I mean, we've all met that friend or that client that I've had to tell them, like, listen, what if you weren't broken? Like, there's a difference between exploring with curiosity and being fascinated by the world and wanting to know more, and just assuming that you're fucked up.
Yes. Yeah. Good distinction.
Yeah.
And I know there's been times in my life where I've literally, I have diverted my attention to things that actually I need to do and explore and shift or change specifically with my business. And I've deflected it by wanting to do more learning. Well, I just need to take this course. I just need to learn about this. Like, what are you doing?
External knowledge instead of internal excavation. Ooh, that's a tweetable moment. Write that down, y'all. That was good. Yes.
Yeah. What are maybe some possible guidelines to help people really discern between, is it the pathological wanting to learn versus the wanting to learn to grow just to grow sake?
It's your natural biofeedback. You can't outfake your psyche, so you can't outfake your body either. When I am externalizing, there's still this hum of anxiety in the back of my head and body. There's still a clench. Yeah. Whereas when I am doing it because I'm just like, oh my God, this thing's fascinating. I'm open, I'm curious. It feels like home. There's an excitement or just even a profound, holy hell, my mind is blown open right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I still have to keep tabs on that, especially as a 7 on the Enneagram, to make sure that I'm getting this works back to structure in business, my Tetris schedule, that my other stuff is getting done. And then I have time now to go and explore the cosmos. You know? But it feels different in the body.
Absolutely. Absolutely. To me, it's like, when I'm learning, because I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. There's a flow and there's truly an ease versus, that anxiety that tightens the chest or the stomach. It's like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Right.
I've got to hurry up and learn this, because who said I needed to hurry up and learn it? I don't know, but someone did somewhere out there.
My own inner parts. It just feels clenchy, you know, and it feels like striving, and it feels like pursed lips and a furrowed brow. And I don't know. I don't like that feeling, but I mean, we've all been there.
Yeah.
And I will say I almost feel like my brain is Teflon then. I'm studying, I'm reading, I'm buying all these activations, but I'm not retaining any of it.
Ooh, another good distinction.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've read that book 5 times now and I'm still not understanding. It's like, okay,
exactly.
Put it down.
Yeah. How about you go meditate and explore yourself?
Yeah, but I'm afraid what came up. And it's like, well, that's where, again, stay in the curious without judging it. And so whatever is going to come up is going to come up. It's all okay.
And it flows right out. Who was I listening to the other day? Someone said, I think it was Iyanla Van Zant, that woman is who I want to be when I grow up. She said that when it is a real fear, it actually goes away. When it is a false fear, one that your brain has made up, which is 90% of it, they're psychologically driven according to research, that doesn't go away. The ego will find another way to come back around.
Fascinating.
And I would have assumed it was the opposite. But once I sat with that, I was like, oh, I see what you mean. Because if it's a biological instinctual fear, right? So like something catches us out of the corner of our eye and fight or flight kicks in. The second you turn around and you realize the truth of the matter, you're like, oh, and it goes away.
Yeah.
At least until the next time.
Yeah. Because
when it's something that you've concocted, nope, it stakes.
Yes. And I guess I would have, as you said that, it's like, I would have flip-flopped that too, but that makes so much sense because our brain, the amygdala, is there truly for actual danger. It also picks up this perceived danger, but yes, we're the ones that, when the ruminating kicks in, the hamster on the wheel type of concept, it's like, no, that's just your brain mindset stuff working on that perception thing, and it's just going to go over and over and over. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, nice.
I know, right?
Yeah.
She's a god.
She is amazing. Absolutely amazing. I followed her work for years. I know I've got some of her books. And the questions she asks, it's like, dang, that's good. Okay.
Yeah, and her interventions. And I mean, she's really who I aspire to be because she pulls no punches.
She doesn't, yeah.
But she does so lovingly. You're just like a grandma hug. I'm like, God, I need to work on that.
Yeah.
I'm good at either pulling punches or coddling, but doing the two together, that's good.
I hear you. Yeah, there is a subtle way of doing that. Not a subtle, but there's a skill in being able to do that.
I'm getting much better at it.
Yeah.
My clients and family would agree.
But that's good. You've got some actual feedback on that.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, they were like, you were always telling the truth, but, now I feel a little more held in love while you're doing it.
Yeah, because I think there is stating the truth, but it's also how you state it that can feel really jarring sometimes to people. But then to come in with a more of an empathic way of communicating that, to hold space for that. The both and in it.
You know who else is great at this, by the way, and I'm convinced is a type 1 for all you ones out there, because I always, tease you that you need more social lubricant before you bend us over with the truth.
But I like that.
I know. Is ironically the Maori family on Casketeers on Netflix. If you haven't watched it, go watch it.
Oh, I haven't.
They're making season 3. It's in New Zealand because that's where they're at. They got 2 seasons on Netflix. It'll make you cry and love humanity and just wish that we were all Moana. I think someone needs to fly me over to New Zealand. So it's a family of funeral directors, but the owner, Francis, he's OCD, but he is their whole culture and his own way of doing it is very kind. So he's going to tell you the truth about like why he's just going to do it himself because you did it wrong. He does it so well that we actually use it in our family now. We're like, can we have that a little more Francis-like, please? He's become a verb.
Well, nice. Yeah, New Zealand is on my bucket list of going there one day because they're just doing a lot of things well these days.
Yes,
and
they
have
are.
for a while. Well, I definitely have to check that out.
Casketeers, look it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, next question then would be, how do you know it's time to truly invest or upgrade in your own personal development? What are some signs that you recognize or you're like, oh, okay, it's time to do something a little more?
When you feel like a wonky sim walking into the wall over and over again. And you can't figure out why. You can't move in a different direction. When I am going to bed frustrated and not feeling like my authentic self. So I've talked about this before in our previous podcast episodes. One of my favorite exercises with every new client is to help them figure out what their authentic soul feels like to them. What is your voice, right? Once you have that, that's the plumb line, boo. Life becomes so much simpler. If I'm not feeling like my word is effervescent, doesn't mean that life is always fun, but it means that I can feel like, I don't know, it feels to me like pop rocks under the skin. If I can't do that, something is off, and I need to either be delegating or working with a coach or a new book or a podcast to figure out why that's off. So I guess it's back to biofeedback. It's easy.
It is. Yeah. And again, this is so much of the theme that you and I talk about in most of my episodes really is knowing yourself. Right. Knowing where your limitations are in your mindset, knowing where your limitations are in your skill set, and being able to say it's okay for me to truly invest in myself and that I want to live thriving, not just surviving in life just because someone else says this is how I need to do it. Yeah.
Wrong.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, I talk about draining. That is it.
Yeah, and also just when I can't figure something out. Or I just don't want to. Like my favorite personal development thing I think that I've done so far has been hiring a virtual assistant. And I was terrified to do that. I thought I needed to make thousands of dollars every month before I could do that. Not true at all.
Yeah.
I found a way of hiring blocks of time instead and coming to literally see in black and white on a spreadsheet, like test it out for yourself. I mean, do it in a way that isn't going to feel like you're killing your bank or your budget because I am the sole provider for the most part for my household. And I have 2 teenage kids that are terribly expensive. So I was one of those women that was like, oh, I hear you. Yeah, it must be nice for you sitting in your huge condo with that pool, Becky, telling me to, invest in myself when I didn't feel like I had a pot to piss in. But I love experiments. It's part of my style in therapy too. Like do something behavioral change. And so test it out. And so I did. I hired a virtual assistant and then I took a look at my numbers and realizing, oh my God, I actually made way more money. I spent more time with my family because she was answering my voicemails and emails that take me 2 hours of admin time. If I do that at my rate of $130 an hour for therapy, that's $260. That almost pays for her entire block of time.
Yeah. And again, what I go back to is like, oh, there's the calculated risk. It is taking those experiments, not something where you're going to, break the bank on it or take tens of thousands of hours away from your own life. It's just like, well, let me just see what I can do in this chunk. I know.
And honestly, she's better at it.
Well, that's the other thing, right? It's when we get to know kind of, oh, I've tried this skill, I've tried to learn it, I've tried to do it. And if it just makes you angry every time you do it, it may be time to actually outsource it, to delegate it. Yeah, because if you're on E, you can't provide the best business, and you can't provide the best of you in all your relationships either, because you're so depleted.
Ding. Like audio production for the podcast. There's another one. It took me 2 hours working on the intro music, and I was like, what in the hell? And within hiring, a dude for $60 an hour, I mean, he had that done in 5 minutes. Didn't I feel sheepish afterwards? Oh, and it sounded so much better. When I heard my voice back, I was like, ooh, who is that? Yes. I would never have been able to figure that out.
Oh, too funny. I still do all my own podcasting stuff.
Kudos to you.
Yeah. There's parts of it where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I don't like it. And then other times I just love it because I like to go back and re-listen to the episode when I'm interviewing. It's harder for me to take it all in.
Sure.
So when I go back, I'm like, oh, that was great. Ooh, that was good too. But yeah, I get it. It's like if it's not your strength, if it's something that you resent, it is time to look at, can I outsource it? For sure.
And you'll make more money, I promise. Like, that's the big fear I hear from everyone.
Yes, that as well. Because again, it restores your energy and also just the vibrational level, like what you're putting out. Instead of being all constricted, you're more expansive because that thing isn't holding you back. I think for me, part of that is sometimes I need to stay stuck a little bit so I can get curious. But like what you're saying is like, if you're if you're spending weeks or months in the so-called stuckness, that's a time to get out of your own way. And like, I need somebody else outside of me to kind of help me get unstuck and get curious about something. Because again, whatever that possible blind spot or shadow piece is, someone else outside of that can help you move through that.
Okay, and leave it to me to be the weirdo in the room too, but I feel like sometimes I hear from women a common sign is when you just can't even have good sex or masturbate. I heard that from a woman just this week. She's like, I can't even masturbate. It's like our bodies are so depleted and like shrivelly energy that even, your normal day-to-day fun moments, you just can't. And I think if you're listening and you're not able to meditate, you're not able to have sex, you're not sleeping well, like this is your body literally trying to get your attention.
No, that's a really good point because it's a whole different, it's another level of really tuning into your body that, again, I don't talk about a ton on the show, that it's like, man, if you can't even get the pleasure piece of it out, there's something that is totally off and needs to be investigated. Yeah.
I'm always happy to bring that to your podcast.
I know. That's why I have you on. Yes. That's part of what you do. So
when's the last time you got off? Yeah. Just saying. Right there.
Oh, too funny. Well, another question or another thing I hear from women, if they're calling me up for services, coaching, and or sometimes the therapy piece of it is, they get in their own way of investing in themselves. So for you, what are some of the things that you've noticed over the years of what gets in the way of women investing in themselves? And I'll talk a little bit more about from my own perspective, but for you, what have you heard?
Here's a super common one that I think is fascinating. So especially for anyone who is in a relationship with someone else on the regular. And so it doesn't have to even mean a partner or children. It can also mean that you have roommates, you're caring for your cat, you're caring for your elderly parent. Anyone who has a personal responsibility, there is often this mindset that, and it's insidious. So on the surface, bear with me because you're probably going to go, that's not me. And I'm going to go, I'm going to wait and see on that one. Of true love needing to be sacrificial. Ooh. Especially for those of us who grew up in religion.
Good one.
Right? And so, yes, there is this idea, and I was one of them. It was easiest for me to see as a mother, but it certainly shows up in my other relationships as well, where I would almost pride myself, not how I thought I was consciously, but subconsciously working with a coach, I saw this, pride myself on my clothes were the ones that were tattered and were getting holes in them, but my children would never have that. And so the idea of to spend several $1,000s on a mastermind or a coach or even a virtual assistant or even Walmart delivery, I keep saying that's one of my favorites. I was just on that app right before our call. So that I don't have to take time out of my day. Some nice human being brings it to me for a tip. It's lovely.
Yeah.
It goes against our natural belief system, and your beliefs are always winning. So to me, that's like the biggest one is like when you come to understand that you're not doing your children any favor by not investing in yourself or whoever, your mom at home, your cat. I mean, what's better? When my kids say, hey, can I join lacrosse? But hey, it's going to be $1,000 in the first 2 weeks. I know that just happened. And I can say, sure, no problem. Or when I'm running around going, oh, I don't know. Mommy works so hard. Let me see what I can do. Let me see if I can take on more clients this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to go with that, what comes up for me when you're saying that, it's like this being modeled that you need to be a martyr as well. You go from martyrdom to victimhood, back and forth in that. And I think our culture has not done women in general any service of investing in themselves. It's kind of like, no, your needs are definitely last. Remember, you are the caretaker of everybody. It's like, no, I'm not. No. It's like,
we're made to feel bad if we get pregnant.
Yeah.
I had an asshole boss that was like, you took your birth control, didn't you?
Wow.
Oh. By the way, he had a class action lawsuit on him several months later.
I was not a part of. Goodness sakes.
Yes. But I mean, that is pervasive.
Yeah.
Oh, you have a sick child at home, or you, God forbid, you want to take a vacation?
Yep.
No.
Yeah. And so it's drilled into us that no, you come last. And yet what you and I are both saying, it's like when you actually put yourself on the list of like a top priority, you're going to yell less at your children. You're actually going to have deeper connections with your partner, your critters, your kids, whatever, because you're more present. You're not burning out. You're not disconnected from you. You know how to speak up for yourself. And the beauty of this, whenever I work with moms, I love to remind them, I'm like, especially if you have daughters, but also for sons, you're role modeling to them what self-care is and putting yourself as a priority. We're going to break the old message that somehow you're not enough and that you come last at the list.
Yep.
You empower them from a younger age. Let's change that for the next generation.
Yeah, I don't want my granddaughters and great-granddaughters struggling to have aunties that make them feel good.
Yes.
It was the little things at first. I mean, you don't have to go big. I really want to reiterate that. You don't have to invest in a $10,000 mastermind.
Yep.
Buy a $100 course first. Go out. I decided that once a month, with one paycheck, I was going to buy one new outfit. Just one new outfit a month so that I could feel better going into work and showing my kids.
And put that on the line item, right? For your accounting piece of it, for your budget, stick that on there. Like, here's my clothes. Put that on there as an item, not just for your kids or for other people. It's like, there's me right there. Your personal development, stick that in there so that you start to, again, if you're using the profit first model, you're automatically, that's part of your profit can go into your own personal development. It's all part of it.
Not to mention there's so many wonderful tax breaks too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have a chat with your accountant. A lot of it you can even write off and get your money back.
Absolutely, you can. I know one thing that I've heard over the years, when people are coming in and I have an idea of what they're making salary-wise, and they're like, oh, I need to ask, my partner if I can do this. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It's one thing to have a contract or an agreement between one another of like, hey, I'm letting you know I'm spending X amount of dollars on this thing over here or on my own personal development, but not asking, can I do this? Are you okay with that? That to me is like you're coming from such a very disempowered place, and versus stepping into what you're actually even asking for, which is I want to grow. I want to, I want this more of an equal relationship. It's not like you're going to do it behind their back. If you're going to spend, thousands of dollars, you want to make sure you actually have the money for it, but you don't need to ask permission to do that.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's been an ongoing conversation between my fiance and I, is like taking a look at who I want to hire next and talking about that. And he's been very honest about his own scarcity mindset and going, I mean, he was like, I'm baffled at the idea of dropping $10,000 for someone to tell you how to do it better. I said, yes, but when you realize that dropping that $10,000, then not that it's all about money, but money certainly allows us to do the things that we want to do. In turn, makes my business run easier.
Yep.
What if that was the difference between making $40,000 that year and $100,000?
Right.
Because there's stuff in my mindset that needs to be looked at.
Yeah, that's just it, right? It's you overcome some of your own blocks regarding that. I know one fascinating thing, as I've invested in higher coaches or those that are a different price point than me, that it's like, oh, if they can do that, so can I.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, you go even challenge your own mindset regarding your fees and the structure and what you can do with it, which really does help.
When speaking to what you were saying, it's for me and Ben, it's all about how we have that conversation with each other. I'm not asking his permission. I'm coming at him going, here's what I'm thinking about.
Yes.
Here's where I would like to take the money from. Here's what I think we're going to get out of that.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, it's coming in with more of an explanation of things and wanting them to step alongside you versus, coming from again, I think it's a disempowered place of like, is it okay? Would you mind? Can I please?
Yeah.
Even, for women that are not working outside of the home, you're still working inside the home. You just don't get a paycheck.
Right.
And if you are even considering like, how can I manage this better? Or I want to participate as a volunteer, but more of a leadership role, or I want to do this, and you want to invest in your own skills, right? Then it's saying like what you just gave an example of, here's what I want to do, why I want to do it, here's how much it's going to cost, and here's what I'm going to get out of it. Because if I'm a happier woman, if I'm feeling more energized, if I'm feeling better about myself, it's going to pay off in so many other ways. And it may not be that financial piece of it, but you grow as a person, and that gives back within the relationships in a whole different way. And again, if you got kiddos, you're modeling to them what that can be, what that is.
So true. It just reminded me of a lot of the couples work. Not that I do a lot of that anymore, but one of the relational models that works best for me is Ellen Bader's. And she is really big on talking about that normative stage in development that most people don't get to, where we have become individuated. We're doing our individual hobbies and interests and finding our way back to intimacy through that.
Yep.
If you can't do that, then your marriage or relationship is never going to feel good. And that's where most people end up falling short. So highly recommend her work, Dr. Ellen Bader. I mean, Tell Me No Lies was huge for me.
They were part of our training in grad school, her and Peter.
Lucky. Yeah, her husband.
And we learned, I didn't learn from them directly, but we learned about their work. Let me clarify that.
Oh,
and
still jealous. We didn't get that.
Oh,
we got Gottman. And I like Gottman, but this one definitely emphasizes to me radical autonomy. And I think that's important.
Well, they actually lived on Burgess Drive at the time where their office was there. So, of course, that really connected for me.
Of course.
They also weren't far from where the grad school was at either. So their work was really big in our area. But I love the different stages they talk about and all of that in their work. And again, really good stuff, and I will put that in the resources as well in the show notes. Well, okay, Tamara, I know we need to wrap up here too, because again, I'm looking at time and all of that. Is there anything that I've missed regarding the importance of personal development? I know we're really honing in on this. Anything else that we wanted to, or you think is important for women to hear, know before we end it?
I just can't emphasize enough the internal change affecting the external. I just clearly biased, but I mean, once I was really willing to put myself first and face all those fears of being selfish and prideful and flippant and all the things against my family of origins culture, my whole life changed. And I know that sounds sappy, but I mean seriously. Yeah. Whole life, the atmosphere of my home, the way I feel about my body, the way that I walk into the office, my price points. I mean, all of it changes because of personal development. So, yeah.
Yeah. And as you were saying that, I'm thinking, I would not be where I am today if I didn't do any personal development. And I have definitely unlearned many, many, many things about what I thought was supposed truths from growing up and their own limitations from, family and or culture. And it's like, wow, that's not even close to being true. And that's the power of personal development. You cannot come out the other side not transformed if you're really willing to get curious and do the work and allow yourself to see something different, possible options.
Well said.
Well, my dear, I want to say thank you again for coming on. And ladies, I will have Tamara's website in the show notes, which is aryatherapy.com. I will have her social media, Facebook link in the show notes as well. So you can go out there and check that out. And I know she will be back on again in the future. And so we'll continue these conversations. So thank you for coming on today.
Always a pleasure, my dear. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. If you haven't already, I invite you to go out to iTunes and please leave an honest rating and review. In the podcast world, this really helps other women find the podcast and they can see if it resonates with others out there. So I really appreciate all your support and leaving me a rating.